Let's move on to the Middle East now, because President Biden has said he backs a ceasefire in Gaza and said the US is engaging with Egypt and other partners to secure one. In a phone call with the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Mr. Biden also voiced his support for Israel's right to defend itself against indiscriminate rocket attacks, while urging Mr. Netanyahu to protect civilians. More than 212 people, including 61 children, have died in Gaza, and 10, including 2 children, in Israel. This was the scene in Gaza City as day broke, bringing with it more airstrikes. With the latest, here's our Middle East editor, Jeremy Bowen.
Nightmares come true in Gaza for parents and their children. This mother couldn't talk about the airstrike that engulfed them last Friday. 8-year-old Mustafa al-Zahana and his mother are further down the children's ward at Shifa, Gaza's main hospital. She says Mustafa trembles when he hears Israeli attacks, ever since the one that wounded him almost a week ago as he left their home with his father to buy new clothes for the end of Ramadan. His father was paralyzed. Mustafa's friend who went with them is dead.
His friend Bara'a was killed. When Bara'a was dying, he was clutching my son tightly and telling him not to leave him alone. Bara'a died. When my son has a fever, he hallucinates about it.
As well as the badly injured, 61 children in Gaza have been killed in the last week. About 20 miles north is this synagogue in the Israeli town of Ashkelon. It was hit by a Hamas rocket. It was the festival of Shavuot, the Feast of Weeks, usually a celebration.
It's a very sad time for us over here in Ashkelon. We are always on bombing. I hope it will finish fast.
In Jerusalem, the Western Wall Plaza was almost deserted. This is the holiest place for Jews to pray. It's usually packed on religious holidays, but some of the worshippers said people were scared to go out. The grey dome of Al-Aqsa Mosque is one of the most sacred places for Muslims. You can see how close it is to the wall. Above the wall is the Golden Dome of the Rock. Both Muslim shrines are built on the site of the ancient Jewish temple. These sites are all also national symbols. A month of tension here raised the hatred levels so high it led to war. The events of the last week have shown a couple of things. First of all, the power of Jerusalem to ignite this conflict. And Hamas have sent a strong message to Palestinians that as far as they're concerned, they are their real protectors here in the Holy City, even though Hamas HQ is 60 or 70 miles away by the sea in Gaza. Our Gaza producer filmed his drive to work, and you can see the bomb sites. If Palestinians and Israelis could be equally safe and secure, they might have a chance of peace. Right now, they don't. Jeremy Bowen, BBC News, Jerusalem.
Well, let's speak now to the former Prime Minister of Sweden, Carl Bildt. He currently sits as co-chair on the European Council on Foreign Relations, a pan-European think tank. Mr. Bildt, thank you very much for joining us on BBC News. The United States blocking a UN Security Council statement again, calling for a cessation of violence in the region, although President Biden has spoken of his support for a ceasefire. Will EU foreign ministers meeting today explicitly call for an end to the violence?
Well, I certainly hope so, particularly now when even President Biden had come out and talked about a ceasefire. And I would expect that within not too distant future, we will have a ceasefire. I think the important thing is what's happened thereafter, that international community, be that the United States or be that the European Union, doesn't just walk away from the issue again, as we've done after these outbursts over Jerusalem or Gaza that occurs frequently. A comprehensive solution might be difficult, that's granted, but it should be possible to move towards a more stable situation after this. But it requires political determination and political courage, and I hope that the EU can demonstrate that.
So why specifically do you say that a ceasefire may be coming? I mean, what's happening on the ground? What's happening internationally to make you say that? I do apologise. We're having problems with the lines to guests. Let me see if we can get Carl Bildt back. While we do that, this is the area around Sderot in southern Israel, very close to the border with Gaza, where we have seen sustained activity from the Israeli army. Obviously, this is an area that is within range of rockets fired by Hamas militants. And we're now into the second week of this violence in the region as efforts continue to find a diplomatic solution and to, in the first instance, secure a cessation of violence. I believe we do have Carl Bildt back, co-chair of the European Council on Foreign Relations. Apologies for the technical issues, Mr. Bildt. I was just asking you why you had said to me that you think that a ceasefire may be coming soon.
Because that is what normally happens. I mean, these conflicts over Gaza, they don't go on forever. At some point in time, Israel will say that we've run out of a target list and we will accept a ceasefire. And I hope Hamas does the same. But the important thing is what happens thereafter, that we just don't walk away from the issue, because the only thing that is certain if that happens is that the conflict is going to be back. New rockets, new airstrikes, new misery.
How do we build a sustained conversation, a sustained dialogue and diplomatic effort to ensure that we don't have these crisis points and then more conversation? How do you keep the conversation going then to try to work towards a longer term solution?
Difficult. But the first thing you have to do is to try to do it. I mean, in the last few years, the international community, be that the Americans or the Europeans, have not been very active on these issues. It is difficult. It is hard. It might fail. But if you don't try, it will not happen. And there were, I remember way back 10, 15 years ago when we had this outburst as well. Then the EU was trying actively to facilitate some sort of at least temporary solution. So there are models that can be used in order to get a slightly better situation.
You say that the core problem is the absence of a two-state solution. Where do you think international efforts are on that question?
Nowhere. I mean, the Americans, the Trump administration was against the two-state solution de facto. The Biden administration seems to, I can understand that. They seem to be reluctant to engage because it's too difficult. The Europeans have been too divided lately to be particularly active actors. Netanyahu is against, so it's difficult. So perhaps one should start with trying to sort out them issue by issue. See, can we do something with Gaza? Can we do something with the issues in Jerusalem? Can we do something with something else? But just to walk away from the issue is, I think that's been demonstrated, not responsible.
Let me pick up on what you said about Joe Biden. You don't think that the US is going to engage in this, you say, because they see it as simply too difficult.
The Obama administration in the second term, John Kerry was the envoy, did make a very determined attempt to move forward with the two-state solutions and failed. No faults of that, but failed. And,
so Joe Biden, of course, part of that administration, bruised by that experience, you think?
I think Washington is bruised by that particular experience. Then, of course, Trump tried to do something entirely different. That's off the cards at the moment. But I would hope that in spite of that experience and in spite of perhaps understanding that sort of a two-state solution within the next few months is not achievable, to put it mildly, that issues that needs to be dealt with. So, say Gaza as an example of what can be dealt with and must be dealt with.
It feels like the international community needs to take this in small steps, because trying to clearly solve the totality of this is impossible at the moment. So as you say, it is about small stages. So what do you think needs to be the next step?
Well, the immediate step is obviously a ceasefire. Then perhaps I think one should start perhaps with the Gaza issue, perhaps with the Jerusalem issue, perhaps with some issue. And then move gradually forward with those particular issues. I mean, certainly not giving up on a two-state solution, but perhaps doing more incrementally instead of the big bang.
OK, Carl Bildt, former Swedish Prime Minister, now co-chair of the European Council on Foreign Relations. Thank you very much.